This is Goku-san DBZ. Welcome back for a new video. This is just going to be a special one looking at some of the games in my collection, whether some of my most valuable slash some of my rarest games in the collection, and some might have both. But with that said, we'll get our way, and I just chose specifically stuff starting a certain price range and looking at them. We're going to start with the more modern stuff first, and lead to the retro stuff. First up is a batch of stuff from Limited Run Games. First up, I have a couple of games that I picked up over time for the PlayStation Vita. This is arguably probably my rarest Vita game, personally, slash most valuable, and that being Papers, Please. This game is pretty cool, done by Lucas Pope, which I've reviewed this in the past and talked about Lucas Pope. I love his other game, Return of the Obra Dinn, though it is not quite as valuable as you might think it would be. But Papers, Please most definitely won limited run to PlayStation Vita, and a couple of different contributing factors. In fact, this is the only physical release the game has ever gotten. So yeah, this is definitely one of the big things in my collection for me personally. Also, for the Vita is one of the different covers, as there were like 3 different covers for the HD remaster of Oddworld, Stranger's Wrath. This is my personal favorite of the covers, personally, and also this copy is still factory sealed as well. So that alone makes it automatically higher than quite a few other games. But that's because I also have the game digital as well, so that's how I usually go on that stuff. Those are pretty much the only real big Vita games in my collection, at least in the value department in any case. Look at a couple others. For PlayStation 4, we have Celeste, which is an all-time classic, so I'm not surprised given its big fan base and stuff that it has been gradually going up over time. To be fair, the Switch version is going for more, but that's because you tend to think of more Nintendo for like classic platformers, but still great, and yeah, it is slowly going up in value on even the PS4 version nowadays. So something to keep into mind if you're curious about at all collecting any of these. Just know you probably will be paying a reasonable sum for some of them. Also, been going up in more recent time, weirdly enough, is another pretty awesome indie game, and that is Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is a very unique, cool game, and yeah, this copy is still factory sealed, and probably always will stay, as I also have a digital. But still, Outer Wilds is a pretty cool game. Now, in recent time, on average, like trending wise, this is going for around like the $80+ range now for physical factory sealed copy of Outer Wilds. So now some of the ones that are surprising to me that have been going up in price as of late have been actually the physical Switch versions of Turok and Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, but especially the first one specifically. I think it's because this is like the only physical ways to actually play the PC version, as it allows you to change things like textures, better in depth, able to reset different elements and stuff in the game that is exclusive to PC only, and this is pretty much the only way to play in physical on modern consoles. So I guess I'm not surprised that the price is going up on Turok and Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, but especially any more trending wise, like I've been noticing, like Turok 1 is trending now for anywhere from like 80 to 100, which is kind of crazy if you ask me. Also, that has definitely been trending for a bit more. Out of the collector's things I have so far, this is one of the ones that's going up in price quickest. Even though it's a relatively less than a year old that it came out. But to be fair, it does include an incredible collection of classic Castlevanias, plus the fact I chose the version that is more after like the Sega Genesis, and I'm wondering if maybe that's the thing, maybe less people got this cover, though I think it's far better looking. But yeah, it is definitely starting to go up as of late, I've been noticing. Something to keep in mind if you're at all thinking about collecting any of these. Just keep these things in mind. The last two I've limited run to look at quickly is first Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which is a great game, and this is technically just like not one of the greatest overall remaster releases in my opinion, but weirdly enough, this is already going for over $100 now for Knights of the Old Republic physical version for the Switch, which is kind of mind-blowing, really, in my opinion. That's kind of crazy. Even Knights of the Old Republic 2, which came out recently, is already starting to go up. Not the levels of Knights of the Old Republic 1 yet, but it's getting there. Another one is the original Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. This game is easily now going for upwards of anywhere from like 1 to 120, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. Now the last one I'm quickly gonna just get up and grab, and that would be this. The really cool collection of the Neo Geo Classic or Pocket Color Collection with 10 classics. Yeah, this is already going for, on average, about 110 at least. That's kind of crazy, so that is just something to keep in mind with some of this stuff. Okay, let's get on to some of the other more modern. Really, the only thing I have, personally, for my X1 is Destiny the Taken King, as on average, this is trending for about 80 to 90 currently, but keep in mind there's a lot of content and stuff with it, so that's something to keep in mind. But it is still a really cool package overall, I think. I really like it. But yeah, that's what you get in total in it. Still pretty cool. Also, a few others. Something I only just recently looked out and came across at GameStop, and I'm glad I did. And that is the physical release of Salt and Sanctuary, which is a great 2D style, like Souls-like game. Now, I paid, I think, like $25 for this at GameStop, and it is currently trending for over $70. So if you can find this at GameStop somewhere, pick it up immediately. That is a big recommendation, not only because of its value and rarity, but because of also it is a solid, great game. Next up is some stuff that kind of surprised me, the prices and stuff. Next up is Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for the PS4, and that is the sole reason this only got a physical release strictly through GameStop. So I was smart, I pre-ordered in advance, got this, as well as the Xbox One version, which is going up pretty well. But yeah, believe it or not, this on the PS4 is trending for over $70 now for Marvel vs. or Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 on the PS4, just because of its very limited release and the fact it was a GameStop exclusive. Next is one that I believe was only $40 at launch when I got the Day 1 edition, which I was only able to get because of the fact I pre-ordered in advance to get it. It includes like special stuff like art book and stuff, music, all kinds of cool little extras. On average, this is now trending for upwards of close to $90 now for Dust Diver, which is a really cool game that kind of reminds me, element-wise, certain things of definitely a few other specific RPG-type games. But Dust Diver, like the animation style, is beautiful. I like the music and everything. Indeed, developed by a small Taiwanese game developing company. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking out the game, but you may not want to pay what the Day 1 edition is going for. Next up, a few others, is one, this special PS4 version of, well, obviously, Stray, which comes with this cool little black cover. Also comes inside the case with a cool fold-out poster. Factory sealed on average, believe it or not. This is trending for $200 now. That's crazy, and it was like $40 when I pre-ordered it. So I'm glad I did when I did. Took advantage. The PS5 version you can still find like dirt cheap. You can find like 30 bucks at Walmart and everywhere. But this version, no, you won't be able to. You had to get it through specific seller online. Also looking at a few other things. The next one isn't really, and you'll see in probably future pickups, but this one is not really super valuable. It's trending for about 50 on average, but it is a pretty rare game actually. And that was released for the Nintendo Wii U, a game, a Hello Kitty card game. It was originally a mobile game on phones and stuff. This is, to my knowledge, the only physical console release that the Hello Kitty game actually got. So that's quite interesting and unique in my opinion. But yeah, it's not a great overall game. Now, funnily enough, rarer than Mario Kart, the game kind of reminds me more of actually Diddy Kong Racing, interestingly enough. But yeah, it is actually a pretty rare game. It's only sold like a few thousand copies, so yeah, it's definitely one of the more rare. I won't be surprised if it skyrockets over time. But as I was able to get for at least a decent sum. But yeah, it's definitely one of the more interesting rare games in my collection. Also, for the Wii U, on the more valuable side, of course, is Twilight Princess HD, which is a great game that I consider a must-have for any Wii U collector, bar none. It is a superb, great game, love it. Best way to go to play the game nowadays, in my opinion. Next up was another one I really lucked out at GameStop. I found this for sale, which is good because I paid like a quarter of what it's going for on eBay. And that is one of the top 3 most sought after games for the Nintendo Wii U. And that is Turbo Super Stunt. Yeah. Very interesting game, based on, of course, the movie with the same name by DreamWorks. Yeah, this is actually a pretty hard to find game, and I can't believe I just came across it at GameStop of all places. I simply asked the store manager if they had Wii U games and stuff for sale. He checked, had like 20 some Wii U games, and I noticed this was one of them. Luckily, I did my research because of trying to slowly over time collect the entire Wii U library. I'm glad I did my research and I saw this. And this was also when I came across Song Sanctuary as well. Now we're going just to 2 specific Wii U, or just regular Wii games. This one has been going down recently in price somewhat, but it is still a pretty sought after game. It didn't get a humongous wide release. That being, of course, the Metroid Prime trilogy for the original Wii. One of the reasons to actually get it while you can for a reasonable sum. Also, my copy of Tetsunoko vs. Capcom, I do have a second copy, which is open. The reason why I'm putting this in the video is because this copy is still factory sealed. Pre-owned and stuff, you're looking at probably about $50+, but factory sealed can go anywhere from double or triple the price, so yeah. Needless to say, next we're going to look at just my really only 2 games for the PS3 era that I would put in here. The first is definitely becoming a bit more rare over time, and price is starting to go up slowly. And that is a somewhat criminally underrated game in my opinion. Alice Madness Returns is a superb, great game. It's a very unique take, a much more mature take, and very dark to say the least, given the subject matter it deals with and stuff. But it has allowed this game to flourish over time and have quite a loyal cult following. The other game is also done by Capcom. In recent time, as when I picked this up several years ago, I got it for like $8 at GameStop. Now you're looking on average probably about $60 to like $80 range. So it's kind of crazy that Ashura's Wrath is becoming a collector's item for the PS3. So if you get a chance, pick it up now. Now looking at a few other things from the more from the 6th generation. You hear music in the background from the first one. For the original Xbox, definitely one of, probably in my top 2 most valuable and somewhat relatively rare games on the original Xbox is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. This is definitely going for a pretty penny. On average, you'd be showing out probably like $120 plus for this game on original Xbox, which is kind of crazy. Also, Obscure, which is going for twice the price on the PS2, but even so, it is still going for over $100 on the original Xbox. And it is a relatively rare game. It is cool, and I think because a lot of the music is done by Sum 41, and now that Sum 41 is retiring from music, I think stuff like this actually may see a spike in value and stuff and sought after just because of the music. Also, of course, can't go any farther without talking about the Silent Hill games. And yes, this is just my special custom case I got a while back from a buddy of mine. But yeah, in general, the Silent Hill games are going for a ridiculous sum of money nowadays on the PS1. I mean, you're lucky if you can find any of these games under $100. Good luck. Also, definitely a bit more rare on my fighting game side of things is Bloody Roar 4, as this game received a very small sales, like I believe worldwide, this sold under like 20,000 copies worldwide, which is probably why today this game is drifting over the $80 mark now. So, good luck. If you can find Blade Roar 4 for a good price, by all means pick it up. But I don't consider it worth the money it's going for on average now. Because personally, I would more recommend probably Primal Fury or Extreme or 3. Also, probably my top rarest game on my PS2 is Echo Knight Beyond, which was an interesting survival horror game by From Software, of course best well known for the Dark Souls series. But Echo Knight in total had like 3 games in total. It had an original game on the PS1. The second game, Echo Knight 2, was exclusively Japanese only release. You would have to import it. And also Echo Knight Beyond for the PS2, as it got a very small, minute release. Because go on eBay now and look at the price on Echo Knight Beyond, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I looked out when I got a copy. I ended up buying the elements separate. I bought the case separate, and I bought the game by itself, disc only and stuff. And sometimes if you buy stuff by pieces and pieces of gear, sometimes you can actually get stuff better price at that way to do things. And that's how I was able to get this finally. One of the games that is really starting to spike in more recent time I've been seeing, out of all the Zelda games, weirdly enough, it's Four Swords Adventure is one of the ones that's really been going up as of late. Like on average, this game is now trending for like $80 to $90 now. It's closing in on the 100 mark, which is kind of crazy. It's basically now the second, like, top only to the original Twilight Princess, but easily the top 2 on the GameCube. And then, of course, the other 2 big ones for me on the GameCube, Pokemon Colosseum and XD, both superb, great, easily in my opinion, 2 of the top 5 best Pokemon games of all time, and easily 2 of also the most expensive. As on average now, this is trending for over $200, which is absurd in my opinion. And like, you're talking $160 or $170 for Colosseum, which I'm glad I got these back when I did for like under $40. But with that said, the last bit on the bit older side of things, we're gonna look at Dreamcast. First of which is a factory sealed copy of Capcom vs. SNK 2. Yeah, which is awesome. I love the case artwork, but it was cool coming across one that was actually still factory sealed. I lucked out. Luckily, the person didn't know much about Dreamcast fighting games and how Capcom specifically stuff is being going up big time. Luckily I was able to get for a good price range. Now this is just a reproduction case on the next one because I originally got the disc by itself. It's the only way I was able to get a hold of it. So, not the greatest reproduction case, but still. But definitely one of the biggest on my Dreamcast collection is Cannon Spike, which is a very interesting shooter type of game that you predominantly play as Charlie Nash, though you can unlock and also play with like Cammy. You can even unlock with play with other characters like Mega Man and stuff. It's a very unique and very obscure Capcom game from this era that I recommend more people check out gameplay stuff. It is actually an interesting game, but I wouldn't pay what it's going for now, as it's going for over $300 now. Also, the Japanese version, which is even starting to go up now, though, Project Justice, which also had the American version. The Japanese is now trending for close to like 100, and the American version is going for over twice the price. So that gives you an idea, which is crazy. Project Justice is a superb, great, somewhat less well-known fighter from Capcom. Also, a factory-sealed Japanese import copy of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So yeah, I've been lucky as I've gotten a hold of a few factory-sealed Dreamcast games over time. This is one of the only consoles I'm willing to go out of my way to get some factory-sealed games, especially as a hardcore Capcom fan and a Dreamcast lover. But yeah, like, though Third Strike is not my personal favorite still, I love the artwork and just everything, and the fact I looked out and got, even though the case has actually a little crack in it, because of that I was able to get the seller to drop quite a nice little amount to get for a more reasonable price. Also, you have Street Fighter 3 Double Impact and of course Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which are both relatively rare. Keep in mind, physically normal releases, this was the only, and still to this day is the only traditional physical way to collect the Street Fighter 3 games, as it remains to this day a Dreamcast exclusive, physically, in traditional releases. The other way is in compilations and collections. It's the only other way to play Third Strike, but this has never gotten another re-release until the 30th anniversary, but I'd still say this is the better way to play those games on the Dreamcast. Third Strike, I recommend more the digital online edition for the, specifically for the PS3 and 360. Now, the only others on Dreamcast to talk about is Marvel vs. Capcom 1, and of course Marvel vs. Capcom 2. 1, because the first one on average is trending now 80 to 90, and of course this is trending for probably about 140 plus. So yeah, it is ridiculous. And the last, on the Dreamcast side of things, probably one of the biggest crying jewels for me personally is Skies of Arcadia, a great JRPG. In my opinion, it's the equivalent to like Final Fantasy 7 or 8, since I love 8, but yeah, it's like the Final Fantasy 7, though you play with airship battles and stuff as like flying pirate ships and stuff. It's just really cool, honestly. I love it. It's so unique. In fact, it only got one re-release, and that was, strangely enough, on the GameCube, and that version's going for even more than this, which is crazy. Now, we're getting towards the end, and looking at a couple of PS1 stuff in my collection. Like I said, this is a combination of both rare and stuff that's going for a pretty some of the more expensive stuff in my collection, or both. And the first thing to show on the PS1 side of things is, of course, Lunar Silver Star Story, and yeah, this is the complete collector's edition, which is definitely the only way to go, and I am glad I got this a while back for a pretty reasonable sum, as the case is in the best shape overall. Because of that, I was able to knock about 20% off the price. You just have to be, that's one thing when it comes to collecting retro games and stuff, you have to be good at when it comes to bartering or pretend you're like a used car salesman. That's the best way to do things in some cases. But also on the that side of things, a submersive that has been going up in recent time is this. An interesting Square game that actually takes place in the same universe as some Final Fantasy games. Uh, but this game is really awesome and unique. I love the art style. It's very different from many other things out there. Some of the character designs kind of remind me a bit of Final Fantasy 12, weirdly enough. But on average now, this game is trending for definitely upwards. I think it will surpass 100 in a matter of time. Also, looking at some more stuff, we can't forget the first game before Project Justice. There was Rival Schools, which is a superb, great game. One of, in my opinion, the best fighting games on the PS1, bar none. And definitely good if you can find for a reasonable price. Jump at it. I would say also the same thing for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is arguably the greatest Castlevania game of all time, and I definitely highly recommend getting it. If you can buy it for a good price for the black label version, do it. Also, I would say the same about the original Silent Hill, but funny enough, the Grace Hits version is going for more than the black label version, which I can't figure that one out. That is just bizarre in my opinion. But hey, second to last on this, a game I looked out, I found the had the booklet, had the art stuff for the case, and the game disc, but just didn't have a plastic case. And because of that, I was able to get for about 50% of the price it was trending for on average. Several years back at a retro convention that I went to, I looked down and got a hold of this. I couldn't be happier, as this is definitely one of the big ones for me. Last but not least on this side is the long box, the classic Kingsville, which is one by many From Software fans, of course. And now for the last few big ones for me. Now this next one is technically not super valuable, but it is actually pretty rare. It's a very unique game for the Bandai WonderSwan. In general, WonderSwan games are pretty rare for the most part, especially here in America, as it was a Japanese exclusive handheld. But this is a very unique, a car battling Tekken game, which is very unique and makes it very distinctive compared to many other things out there, weirdly enough. But I recommend checking it out. Now, price-wise, it's trading for about 26 bucks, so like I said, it's not super valuable, but it is definitely rare. Also, for of course, the SNES, can't forget Chrono Trigger, which is going for ridiculous amounts. Another one that is surprising in more recent years that's really been going up, it's not super rare or anything, is Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. On average, this game is trending for a crazy, on average it's now trending for over $80, believe it or not, for just Ultimate MK3 on the Genesis. Last couple, on the Saturn side of things, we have the long box American release of X-Men Children of the Atom. This is going really trending now, is up in the triple digits now in trending prices and stuff. It's absurd, and I don't think it's going to be going down in all honesty. Children of the Atom is not exactly the most common, especially the long box version. Good luck. Second to last is technically, at least the case, is a reproduction case, but definitely a big one for me is in my top two, probably rarest / most valuable games. And that is Crusader of Century. It's a very unique Sega Genesis exclusive that is sort of like, I guess you could say, has elements of definitely a Zelda clone, like elements to it, that reminds me quite a bit of like Link to the Past, but at the same time also has elements like Pokemon, except this game predates Pokemon by several years. So it's almost like maybe Pokemon stole ideas from this game. Maybe. Last but not least, of course, is Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is pretty much for me, is the absolute pinnacle and my favorite thing in my collection. Definitely the crowning jewel. As a big, long-time Sega fan, as a lover of the Saturn, with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe. See you again. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and hopefully enjoyed the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 music in the background. See you again soon enough.